Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Tittle Tattle Tarot. It's Georgie. And on the table today, I have the lovely Light Seers deck. And I'm returning to the subject of Shirley Temple. This time, I want to look at specifically the mother and father. We're staying in the same sort of age for Shirley Temple, her very early years, sort of around about 3 to 5. And I want to know the mother and father's approach to this child. Shirley Temple Black, in later years, whenever she was interviewed, she never had anything but good things to say about her parents. And, you know, the fact that her money was gone by the time she was about 22, I think. The money had gone, all the millions that she'd earned were no longer in her account. Her father was in charge of her finances. She never had anything bad to say about that. She was very stoic, and you know, I think it sort of says something about her personality that she didn't write a mummy dearest or anything like that, far from it. But I want to know from Tarot's point of view what life was really like. What was life really like for Shirley Temple with her parents? What was going on there? I know that they both married very young. I think that Gertrude Temple, she met George when she was 16, and then they married when she was 17. There were a couple of boys that were born, and then Shirley came along afterwards. And Gertrude was very aware of Shirley's performing, even at, say, eight months or so. Shirley was standing up in her crib and bouncing to music, and her mother thought she was very musical and, you know, had good rhythm, and had to get her into a dance school. So, you know, that's not really the way most mothers look at their children. Is that healthy? I don't know, but I'll be interested to see what the cards say about all of this. So I'm going to pull a Celtic cross. And the last one that we did was from the studio's point of view, how the studio abused and took advantage of this little girl, this little talent. And now I want to know what was going through the parents' mind. So both parents, Gertrude and George Temple, what were their thoughts about their daughter? Okay, at the centre, we've got the Fool in reverse. I don't think they'd really been going anywhere with their marriage or their children, or, you know, making money or anything like that. I think their life was pretty much at a standstill. Until this child was born, everything was there wasn't really any new start, you know. I think probably if they were working, they were just making money, just getting by. They had 2 boys. I think life was pretty humdrum, to be honest with you. That's a sort of the Fool. You're just really treading water. And I would say that was life until Shirley Temple was born. And what was crossing that, I think they both had things from their own past that made them want to be more successful, made them want to be richer, have more in their lives. I think probably neither of them. I don't know what their histories were sort of with their own families, but I kind of look back. The 6 of Cups is a nostalgia card, and that way up you could look back and say, oh, they were both very nostalgic for their families, and they were very you know, looking back at their own childhoods with great tenderness. But I don't see that. I see that as we want to be, we want to give more. We want to give our children more, and create a better life, not just for the children, but for everyone involved in the family, because we didn't have that. So I'd be very interested to know what their childhoods were like growing up. I'm not saying that they were probably impoverished, but I just don't think that either the opportunities were there or maybe the love wasn't there. Just something going on in both of their childhoods, that these two got together, but they didn't have particularly happy memories of childhood times. And so the top card here, what's sort of at the head of everything, is leaving behind this situation of feeling stuck, leaving behind this situation of looking at the past and thinking, you know, well, our past was not good, leaving all that behind and moving on. Look at the sun coming up, sun glowing up. And this is like something exciting on the horizon. This child comes into their lives and it's like, well, we can forget about those spilt cups, or we can forget about that emotion there, about feeling stuck, about looking back and thinking, well, life for us wasn't that brilliant when we were children. Let's leave that and move forward with this child who has so much personality, has so much va-va-voom, you know, let's go forward with that. And this is like another chance, I guess. This way up, the Four of Cups is, I can't be bothered, thank you. Oh, you're giving me another chance, or you're giving me a cup of love. I can't be bothered. I'm not interested in anything you have to offer me. Well, with this third child, it was right. We've got another chance now. We've got a child that's dancing up and down, and that could be our pot of gold, if you like, could be our cup of fulfillment. So they've got a second chance, and very often the Four of Cups in reverse is a second chance. I'm not going to miss out on this second chance. I'm going to grab it with both hands now, this chance that's come to me. Because in the past it's been money. I'm not saying they were poor, but money was an issue. They had to really scrimp and save and look after the pennies. And, you know, both of them, Gertrude Temple and George, they'd had to be very mindful of how they spent their money. And I think, you know, this had followed them through from childhood, perhaps, you know, not having an abundance of wealth, always having to cut corners, always having to mind the money. So, you know, you've got all this sort of behavior of not having enough love, not having enough money, not having enough happy memories of their own childhood. And then this child comes along, and Five of Cups in reverse. Well, Five of Cups, that is looking at all this spilt stuff, all this stuff that's gone wrong. But things have moved on, so now they can let go. They can let go of that emotion, that concentrating on the bad stuff. Better times are ahead. That's the way that I see the Five of Cups in reverse. The Five of Cups is dwelling on what's gone wrong. The Five of Cups reversed is like, we can let it go. Good times are ahead. Better times are to come. So the High Priestess in reverse. This is the very much the energy of Gertrude and her husband John. It is secrets. This way up, the High Priestess, it's a very worldly. If you had a little daughter and she was going to a studio and she was going to be filmed, the High Priestess this way up would see, would understand, and would say, ah, right, I see what's going on here. And I think, in all honesty, the High Priestess would say, no, she's not doing that, or I understand where this studio's coming from, and it isn't in her highest interests. I understand the way your mind works and what you're doing. High Priestess is very worldly, understands, can look at a situation and know where the good lies, where the bad lies, deeply understands human behavior. This is the other way up. I think this is either not understanding or choosing not to see. There's none so blind as those who cannot see. Isn't that what they say? This figure is with her eyes closed. There were bad things going on at that studio. And I believe that this is a female card. I believe that especially Gertrude Temple chose to look the other way. She chose to ignore the bad stuff that was going on. And there was bad stuff, things that even her daughter had said to her, that she said, oh, you could be mistaken. Surely that didn't happen. The High Priestess in reverse. This is not a good card. I don't know whether she was doing it deliberately or whether it was just the money's too good now, that, you know, the possibilities are too good. Just shut up and put up, sort of thing. But this is not a good card. You do not want this as, you know, your motherly figure. And so Three of Swords, this is what people saw. They saw the heartbreak of this. Now, when I say people, I don't know who those people are. This is outside looking in. It wouldn't have been the studio bosses, because they were as much invested in making money from her. So it wouldn't have been them, but it could have been people on set, stagehands. It could have been people, maybe even within the extended family. They could see that this was not the best thing for a small child to be rehearsing, working. And, you know, acting being her life. Should that be so at 3 years old, 4 years old? No, of course it shouldn't. And this is a heartbreak, not to her, not to Shirley Temple, because she didn't know any better. And you always have to remember, what is normal to you, normal is what you know, isn't it? So she wouldn't have seen anything wrong with that, standing there and dancing for hours on end, learning lines for hours on end, not being coddled, not being, you know, being spanked for bad behavior. She wouldn't have seen anything wrong with that. But I think that people from the outside looking in would say, this is heartbreaking, this little girl having to act this way and work so hard. And the universe comes up with the Hierophant. The Hierophant, it's such a wise card. The universe is saying, this is not feeding the soul, you know, this behavior will not nourish and nurture and lead to goodness. This child needs nurturing and love in her life. She's getting praise and she's getting attention, but it's the wrong kind. To actually elevate her confidence, to make her glow up, she needs more love in her life, more unconditional love. I think this is the card of unconditional love, and I think the love that she got was very conditional. You know, she would get rewards for acting well, for dancing well, for singing well. I think that she was probably spanked and very much put in the naughty corner for any bad behavior. And the universe is saying, you know, children need that constant love, right or wrong. You know, you do not give a child conditional love. It's always unconditional. So that's what the universe is suggesting. That is what is needed. Because this whole situation is a tower. The abuse, the working conditions, there were no like sort of unions to protect children. Children were just slave labor back then. And I mean, luckily she came out of this all right, but it was a tower. She couldn't see it because she was in the middle of it. And I think when you're in the middle of something, you don't realize how bad it was. But her money was all taken. Her father, I don't know quite how it happened. She says, oh, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. But, you know, your main concern in your life should be your daughter and your daughter's finances. How can you go from having 3 million back then, not now, 3 million back then in an account, and it dwindling down to 44,000? I mean, back then, 44,000 was a lot of money, but it wasn't 3 million. And, you know, her father was in charge of that. And Shirley Temple was very much, well, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. But these were tower moments, you know, her mother turning a blind eye to the things that went on at the studio, tower moments, you know, that was the outcome of all of this. Studio executives flashing themselves, trying to grab her, men in their 40s kissing on the lips a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old child. Absolute tower moment. And the only saving grace of all this is that Shirley Temple came out of this unscathed. But that is more to say about her than it is about the people around her. So I'm going to go right to the middle of this pack and just see if I can just get a little bit of extra. Queen of Wands. So I think this is the way, yeah, this is the way that she saw her parents. She saw her parents as the mother is the very passionate mother. I'm sure she was very passionate, very creative, the one that stays up sewing sequins on her costumes. This is the way she saw her parents. She didn't appreciate the tower. You know, she didn't appreciate that these two people, the mother and the father, had led to, you know, basically abuses of her, because it was her life and she didn't understand that. The mother, the passionate mother, oh yes, get on the stage, do your time step, wonderful, let me sew sequins on that, you know, push. The Queen of Wands at her most fieriest, her right behind you, you know, standing in the wings, that sort of things. And then the King of Pentacles, the father, he was the one entrusted with the money, the King of Pentacles, but unfortunately he wasn't the bank manager, he wasn't good with money, but she would not have anything said about either of them. So, you know, she never had that poor me mentality, which I think is very honorable. But these two people here, well, they caused her an awful lot of trouble financially and not emotionally. She managed to cope with it, but she was their meal ticket, and you know, she never actually realized that, I don't think, and she would never have said that. But these cards here, the only card of unconditional love is this one, coming from the universe and sort of saying, this is what you need to do. None of the others are like that. All of the others are, you know, give me a second chance, let's make some money, let's walk away from being very stuck, let's head towards a new horizon, let's just ignore anything bad that's going on. You know, we've got a bit of a Three of Swords moment here, but you know, well, that's okay, it's not as bad as people think it's much worse. You know, this isn't caring, loving parent energy. This is, yeah, let's make some money, and that sort of energy. That's what I'm getting from it. She was a commodity, treasured commodity, because they wanted to look after her and make sure that she kept making films. But she's very controlled child, very, very controlled. So this is what I'm getting from the Queen of Wands, who I see as Gertrude Temple, and the King of Pentacles, who I see as George Temple, and their opinion about their 3, 4, 5-year-old daughter in Hollywood at that time, early 1930s, mid 1930s. So I shall leave that with you, and I'll be back again, maybe with another Temple one, going a little bit into her older years. We shall see. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.